Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Vergence. We are Hacked in the Dark, playing Forged in the Dark games for your entertainment. We left off just before a dramatic duel. My name is Jacob, I'm playing Hrolf, and if we want to go around quickly and say who we are and then jump into the duel, or the setup for the duel.
I'll be watching the duel safe. Oh, I'm so sorry. Safely from a distance as Agorus.
I'll be in the duel. I'm going to be playing Valriaut the Adept, and let's see if I die this time.
Yeah. I'll be playing Ananke. I'm Navi, and I'm not sure what I'm doing here yet. I'm sure I'll do something.
I'm sure you'll figure something out. Hi, I'm David. I'm the game master, so I'm playing everything else. So we sort of ended on an interesting cliffhanger last time. Valriaut had been working very hard to arrange to get Morgaine to challenge him to a duel. I think you figured that your only shot at winning a duel was that she challenged you so you could set the terms of the duel rather than having her do that. And you successfully managed that. You got her to challenge you. And the terms of the duel are a duel of power. So not use of weapons, but use of powers. So there is a little bit of a delay. Part of the delay is that the usual room that's used for dueling, when your challenge happens, is being used for another duel. So that takes a little while to resolve. A couple of nobles end up rather bloodied and resolve their dispute, and then they have to clean it up a little bit for you. Meanwhile, the principals or the seconds for the duel are actually the two of you who are negotiating on the behalf of your principal, since Hrolf, you are the second for your mother, Morgaine, and Agorus, you are the second for Valriaut. So you've managed to do your negotiations. That's kind of how that plays out. The dueling room is about 40 yards across. It's circular with a big domed ceiling and sort of flat tile floor that has sort of interesting complex mosaic in the floor. There is a viewing chamber off to one side that has sort of collapsible, closable doors with heavy, thick windows. That has room for about 30 people. So obviously the seconds are invited to that, and a few other nobles who have pull, other blood characters who have pull, who are interested, have made their way in. That would include some of the folks that you know, including Morgaine's husband Selim is there, and an ally and friend of Agorus. Valriaut, your mother and your brother show up. Your mother, we haven't seen that shoot. Your family has made a late showing to the ball, but have made a showing here. Methane is the high priestess of the orb, and Boran is your brother and is also a priest of the orb. So they've checked in with you, and they want to know. Methane kind of shows up, comes over, says, wants to know if you're really quite sane right now.
Yeah, I imagine that Valriaut's most deeply held hope for this whole thing was that he could get this duel in before, the delegation from the priesthood, the clergy, and all of his family showed up. He's already kind of got a chewing on. I imagine we talked about it last week, as far as not this being very impolitic, right? This is not a situation that you want to find yourself in. What the hell are you thinking? She's going to cream you, right? I think as soon as family's on the table, like there's a little part of Valriaut that is like, oh, by the light, I wonder if they are not wrong to think that I am a madman. Um, I think that resolve holds though, and he sets his jaw and he's like, "Mother, she struck me. What could I do? The way that I was raised, the way that she helped to raise me in my fostering. This is not an insult that we can just simply leave and let lie."
She looks at you and she says, "The striking is not the question. It's what happened that led to the striking."
Ah, yes. No, I understand. I understand entirely where the misunderstanding came about. While I was there, while I was being fostered, a certain object went missing. Suspicion and blame was cast upon myself. It was left at an odd end. It was left in a place of shame, both on us and on her part. In my wanderings, in my travels, I came across the bauble where it was mislaid, and what could I do but try to mend fences? And she struck me, mother.
Hmm. Well, I think we will need to speak of this further in the future, but for now, I think you need to focus your energies on managing this event. So I will not speak of it further with you now. I will speak with you later about this. Your first goal must be to survive this duel. And if you can pull off a win, then I will not hold that against you.
As ever, I remain your most dutiful son. I will do everything in my power to make this not a blemish upon our house or upon your august personage.
Very well, and she bustles off. I think one thing to keep in mind is that you've been preparing for this and thinking about this for something like a century. So if you can call for flashbacks or setup actions, and that's fine, depending on what your plan is for how this is to go. So various people go into the viewing room. The two seconds are called out onto the floor. There is a marshal who is in charge of making sure that no excessively underhanded shenanigans happen in duels. He is wearing full armor. He has a tall stave, which he uses to bang on the floor to make this big booming noise. He calls the two of you forward and chats with the two of you about the conditions of this duel. What do you describe as the parameters of the duel? What has been negotiated?
So last week, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and this is for Agorus and Hrolf, because you were, I mean, technically Hrolf was the agent of his mother, but you were my agent.
Well, we'll see how sneaky this is.
Right. So I was hoping this is almost like a sumo match of the power here. We're trying to shove each other to the far corners, try to get each other either out of a ring or away from each other to a measured distance or beyond. That was what I was hoping. Is that something that might be amenable?
All right. So the marshal interprets that as cannot answer.
Yeah,
so
that
if
works for me.
I call to one who has fallen or is not engaging, and they cannot answer or choose not to answer, then they have forfeited the match, and I will call it. No further combat shall happen if I call an end to the match. Understand also that injury to bystanders shall be a forfeiture of the match. So call your primaries out, please.
Okay. The Badger summons Valriaut.
All right. Has Valriaut changed clothing? You have time to do that.
Yeah, I think for this, he's keeping that very, very dashing half cloak, but he's discarded the mask just because it being the domino with the beak and everything, that it's going to get in the way.
Sure.
So he's almost at this point like it's almost like a matador costume, right? With the half cape, obviously unarmed and everything, but he's traded in his dancing shoes for his pointed kind of wizardly shoes, just for surer footing.
I think kind of before we call everyone in, there would probably at least have been a moment for me and Agorus, and if we can like sneak it, Ananke, to like come up with some kind of plan.
Yeah, you would have had time while, again, this previous duel was being resolved and things were
Is this?
being handled. So you have some time to talk this over if you want to.
Are you saying pre-declaration of what is happening?
Well, you could certainly flashback, or you could, take some time before.
Yeah, I'm just asking Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like.
Or how far back do you want to flash back
Yeah,
to?
I'm probably not thinking so far back. Like we've been declared as seconds.
Yep.
They're setting everything up, and we have just like a moment to say like, what is this going to look like? And this is probably also kind of while we're figuring out what the terms of the duel are and stuff like that. So if my mother cannot respond or chooses not to respond, then she will lose. And I believe her history is something of an open book, or I would suggest we provide her with a reason not to respond. If we can provide Valriaut with any further information that could help, we might be able to provide a distraction or an opening or a reason not to respond.
Well, you certainly have time to have a conversation with your mother, and you would certainly be informing her of what the conditions of the duel, what the negotiation results have been.
So this is kind of my thought of a direction to win, and if it comes to it, I can flash back to have some like blackmailing information or something like that to distract or.
Yeah, like a greater shame when the judge calls for her.
Right.
I appreciate you guys being in my corner for this. Like that's really heartwarming. So when she starts screaming you, we have this other thing that we can.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly.
I was kind of curious, what constitutes cheating in this scenario?
Are you asking me, or are you asking the 2 seconds?
Yeah, what is cheating, seconds?
Well,
I don't think
harm or really involvement of bystanders, I would think. Which, as well, the storm is not the most controllable. So that may be another direction.
Sure, but we shouldn't be throwing ourselves into it.
Yeah. No. I mean, if you were to jump in front of something, then the marshal would probably not interpret that as a default on the part of the combatants. But if people behind the screen,
if Ananke just happened to be somewhere in, like,
But one possible strategy for Valriaut would be to maneuver Morgaine into making a strike on the observers. Strike hard enough to break through the barriers and attack and get them and do some kind of harm to them.
That's a good thought. I've got something for that.
Okay. Trying to throw some ideas out.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think while we're having this conversation, Valriaut is trying to assure you guys that he has a couple of plans working, but for the most part, it's just surviving long enough for those plans to come to fruition. I am a subtle and masterful worker of the power. I cannot imagine that 100 years of training myself to win this duel that I will not acquit myself well.
Hrolf tries not to look skeptical.
I think Agorus would kind of look at Valriaut after the judge or the master had declared the terms, because we went there to tell them or like suggest what it is, and he's like, okay, so it's the call and answer, and maybe Agorus would have known this ahead of time, but I think trying to get the terms where you want it, I don't know that Valriaut, like, I just want to at least let Valriaut know the gravity of the situation, because the simplicity of do not call back does involve, if she knocks you right out, like, she's got a hammer and it's going to definitely be viable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hrolf,
the thought has occurred to me that a single massive blow could render me completely unconscious and therefore not able to call out. But this is a duel of the power, so I think I might be able to absorb a little bit more than necessarily if he was flailing at me with a hammer. So here's the hope.
And Hrolf, you can you've seen her fight. And you've seen the kind of storm powers that she has. So you can give Valriaut some idea of what she can do, in that you know that you've seen her use wind powers to perform acrobatics. You've seen her launch a blast of sort of supersonic air at a target. You've seen her create sort of storm and lightning shields around herself. Those are the kinds of things she can do. Obviously, she's good with a sword and other weapons, but that's not relevant here. She's pretty good at grappling as well, so if they were to get into grappling and the marshal didn't stop it on the grounds that that's not a power, then she might be able to just overwhelm.
That's not magic. You can't do that.
Yeah, I would probably convey that to Agorus to convey to Valriaut, but you probably also know that, having grown up with her too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, odds are good. Okay, I think that where is Ananke in all of this? Is she's permitted in the observation room as like part of our alliance, right?
So
Well,
the seconds would have authority to invite a couple of people each as witnesses, and even if that were not the case, Agorus has enough pull that he could bring a couple of people in anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think Ananke's probably wherever she can keep an eye on the fight and also find some kind of cover, because she's preemptively thinking that she's going to have to intercede in some interesting way. So she's looking for a way to be out of everyone's eyesight so that when like the tendrils start appearing, not everybody's like, what is?
Yeah.
This room is kind of specifically built to make that difficult. It's just a big, open, empty, circular room. There's a viewing chamber that you'd be invited into. There's a doorway on either side for the combatants to enter into. And those doors are then closed. There's a sort of side area that the marshal and the 2 seconds are allowed to be in, and that's pretty much it.
Is it possible? Is it possible for me to negotiate with somebody very large in the room to just stand in front of me?
Well, you can see what you can manage from that viewing area.
I hear it's pretty big.
Right. So
yeah. Selim is a pretty big guy, so and you have described yourself as pretty large yourself, right? You're pretty tall. So you might not be able to conceal yourself completely behind the crowd, but you can sort of be in the back row.
all right, I'm gonna try.
Yeah. You're not like a teeny little goblin or anything.
Not this time. Okay. I think as long as everybody else is feeling ready, I think that I'd like to get this unpleasantness over with.
Okay, let's
Sure.
do it. Agorus, you're kind of making arrangements, by the way, and your sister approaches Jelinum, and she says that she finds this rather amusing and would appreciate an invitation to observe.
Yeah, so we would be. This is like before everybody's gathered in there, or it's about to
as
start.
people
So,
are getting together, it's starting to.
does she approach with that like entourage she had previously, or is she like alone?
She's left them. They're back over there. She's not asking for them to come in because she knows that there are limited spaces, but she's asking
Sure.
for a seat.
Yeah, I mean, I presume because my goal was to stay kind of in disguise for the majority of the night. So
Yep.
by this, I would
She
assume
managed
that
to figure out that
didn't
you're
have a
you
problem with
and participating in being a second for this duel and having people approach. It's hard to have
Start talking,
yourself be
yeah.
completely incognito as you're doing that.
Yeah.
And she's not dumb.
Sure, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, that's fine. So I mean, assuming there's not like any sort of pressing. I mean, the dominus of the storm. I don't know if there's already like a wait list, like as soon as this is announced or something. But I'll invite her over or whatever.
Okay.
Like if we have
you have a couple of spaces that are available to you. Meanwhile, Hrolf, a couple of the other. So Selim has kind of made sure with you that he's going to be able to be part of this.
Of course.
A couple of the other Storm Knights are in there wanting to be there as witnesses. There are a few other nobles that that can sort of be there in the background as sort of nobles that we don't need to specify at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the viewing area is full, as these things tend to be.
Scalping tickets to my duel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at least Ananke, you'll hear a couple of people in the background discussing betting odds over next to you. It seems like Morgaine is favored.
Surprising.
How weird.
Yeah.
All right, so let's flash forward to the beginning of the duel, if that's okay. So the marshal bangs his staff. It makes a gigantic booming sound on the floor. The two seconds are asked to step aside. The two combatants are commanded to come forth or forfeit the duel. And Morgaine steps out onto the dueling floor. She has removed some of her outer, more flowy garments, and you can see that her costume was designed so that if she had to drop stuff and go fight, she could do that without any limitation.
Is she armored?
No.
Good. Okay.
And she's standing there on her side.
All right. Valriaut is going to, assuming that the seconds are out of the line of danger, he's going to step out onto the floor. He's going to extend his hands almost in benediction or salute, and ask, "You all ready then?"
The marshal bangs his staff again, and he makes clear that he's controlling this process, not you. And he looks to both of you and asks each of you if you are ready and fully capable of participating in this duel and understanding of the dangers.
I am.
Morgaine nods. He clarifies the rules about not striking bystanders, and that if he calls for one of you to respond and you do not, and he calls a halt, then the other is not to proceed. So he makes the rules clear. He pushes his staff forward between you and says, "Let the duel begin," and raises his staff and backs away.
Okay. Now, assuming that Morgaine does not come out just swinging at me, I'm going to do the circle. I'm going to do a almost as if we were fighting physically here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to move around the circle with her. I really want to get, because I haven't seen her in a long time. I only have secondhand knowledge of her wielding of the power and things like that. I really kind of want to size her up and maybe use it as like a setup action for what comes back.
And of course, it's been a long time. Anything that you learned about her capacities back then, she may have learned things since then. She may have, injuries or weaknesses that she's gained since then. So you only, you know her from a long time ago. All right. So you want to kind of study her? What is it you're exactly trying to do?
Yeah, I think study is the action rating here. I'm watching to see how she moves. I'm watching to see if she is protecting anything in particular as she's moving. I want to see if she's gathering her power to her. In what manner is the power coming to her? That kind of thing. I want to size up my opponent, and I think that's study.
Okay. So why don't you make a roll? I'm going to say that for now that is a controlled position standard effect. You have a couple of dots in study. I'm assuming at this point you're not pushing or throwing any devil's bargains.
Not yet. I don't think so. Unless you've got a really interesting devil's bargain for me. I'm happy with the just plain roll. But if you got something off the top of your head, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of anything really brilliant at the moment. As the duel proceeds, we might come up with some interesting things.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt in my mind. Okay, so 2 controlled standard. Here we go.
Yep. And you roll a fail. But it's controlled, so it's not, so you'll get a consequence, but it's only a controlled consequence, so it's not going to mess you up too bad. So let's say in terms of consequences that you, she appears to be just standing there, not doing anything. And let's say that your consequence is that she is gathering power, and you do not see exactly how that's happening. You're sort of slightly unawares.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I'm seeing just Morgaine standing there, apparently doing nothing, as I'm sort of moving around the circle to kind of close a little bit of distance between us. And it looks like she's just standing there. So I'm going to attempt to reach out with the power. I'm going to just kind of almost like, if we can imagine the power equivalent of like a straight jab. Like this is measuring distance. This is trying to get a sense of my opponent. This is just the very opening salvo and seeing what comes back at me.
Okay. The only thing you're seeing from her is you're feeling wind. You're feeling a little air moving around, not a blowing storm, but there's air moving around, and you can see a little bit of glow in her eyes, but you're not seeing the manner in which she is gathering power. You have the subtlety ability, so you can choose or not, when you use the power, to have any manifestation whatsoever occur.
For right now, I'm going to go ahead. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and let the power manifest. Right, the glowing eyes and the all the marks of an adept of the Tavern of Agorus as I grab hold of the power, twist it into a weapon.
Sure.
And
so you kind of want to hide your ability to hide
until it makes sense that I do something tricky, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. So the two of you are, I think, going to strike pretty much at the same time. So you're going to make your roll, and that'll determine how that plays out between you. because she's going to make a strike at the same time that you are reaching out toward her with the power. One thing to be clear on again is that we are in a vergence, which means that reality is more resistant to manipulation in this place. So larger effects that would occur out in the Umbra are sort of lessened here. So what are you exactly you're trying to do? What kind of action rating are you trying to use? Warp?
Yeah, I would imagine.
But
Yeah. The way that I'm looking at it, at least, I mean, I could see the case for, actually I could overpower would be like if I'm just trying to Kamehameha her, but right now we're very much in the just using the power as the power.
Okay.
That screams warp to me.
And you are not trying to make use of your banish ability at this point?
Not just yet. I want to see what I'm dealing with, and then I'll start pulling out dirty tricks.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say that is risky, and it would be limited. It would be normal in the Umbra. It's limited here. So, but you're also going to find that she has less ability to use the power. So, in some ways, this duel is likely to go on longer here than it would someplace else.
Goody.
Because of your mutual lack of extensive ability to control reality here compared to what you're used to.
Right. Okay. What is the devil's bargain here?
Let's see. We could say that you, one possible devil's bargain is that however it plays out, you will end up a little confused about what's going on.
That makes sense to me. Just as far as like, this is all of a sudden combat and no plan survives contact with the enemy. Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. So that makes sense to me. I'm interested in that. Can I use that to maybe get standard effect here?
Yes, you could trade that for standard effect.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
And what effect are you trying to achieve exactly?
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put her off her guard. I'm trying to maybe get her to skid back a little and understand that I am not the stripling that she sent away from her realm. I want her for just a moment to be like, oh, we have an actual competition here. That
this isn't just a little joke thing that she's doing as an amusement. Okay, why don't you make that roll? 2 dice, and you get a 4. All right. So either way, you're confused by what's going on. What I'm going to say is that you get your effect that she is knocked around a little bit, but you impose your will upon her physically. You see her knocked backward, not down, but backward. Meanwhile, she is so she appeared to not be doing anything, just kind of standing there. And while you took your movement and launched your power out at her, she did this. Reached out with her hand and the power, and a blast of supersonic air has blasted forward at you. So that would be, I'm going to say, 2 level 1 consequences. One is that you're just knocked back and sort of barely on your feet, and the other is level 1 harm, which would be just you are hit in the face and bruised by the force there. So that would be just a minor bruise to the face. You could choose to resist either one of those, or you could take them both.
I agreed to the confusion and everything. I'm good with the bruising. Is the knocked backward also a level 1 harm?
No, it's not harm. It's just it's changing your positioning within the location. So you are kind of dazed by what's going on between those two, between the devil's bargain and you're being kind of knocked sort of almost off your feet. you're kind of like, where exactly what's going on?
Yeah, I lose track of my opponent in the in the whole getting hit in the face thing. So yeah, I'm going to take minor bruise, the level 1 harm. I'm a little confused, but as I'm kind of pulling myself up, I'm maybe a little bit of slur in the voice from being hit. I'm like, no, the stripling you can kick around like when I was young. I know that nobody is expecting anything of me, but maybe you expect a little more.
So while you were kind of reorienting yourself, that gave her time to, she noticed that you had the ability to affect her. So that gave her time. What she has done in the moments while you were doing this isn't a long time, but she has created sort of a storm around herself. So it's whirling winds, and you can see little lightning strikes. And with your ability to kind of see through the power, you're seeing that that's creating a shield around her.
Interesting. Okay.
So that used up the devil's bargain, and the knocked back consequences, those no longer apply. You've gotten yourself back together, but she had time to put that defense up.
Okay. Interesting.
Without your being able to interfere.
I think this is where I want to flash back to talking to Hrolf about how best to get around this kind of storm shield thing. Is that a thing that we might be able to talk about in flashback, Hrolf?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's not going to cause too any stress.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the shield is one of her specialties. It's how she's been able to stay fighting for so long. It's like most of her and her personality, the best way is probably just to beat it down as hard as you can.
Interesting. Okay. I'm wondering here if there's some subtle change that I can make to the way this storm shield works that I could maybe turn it against her. Is there anything there, perhaps?
You'd need to do something to find that information out.
Yeah. I'm hoping that I can get it from Hrolf. If not, I've read Sealam's histories about her and things like that.
Right.
But I'm looking for, and this is the peek behind the curtain, I'm looking for a way to use my warp fate ability here to maybe make an interesting change in how the power is affecting this storm shield.
Something you want to suggest, Hrolf?
Having trouble thinking of something.
Yep. While you're doing that, let me explain the effects of harm in this game, which are different from the effects of harm in regular Blades in the Dark. You have level 1 harm in this game. That means that that's described as it hurts, but you're okay. So there's no mechanical impact of being at level 1 harm. It's just filling up boxes that can later bump up to level 2 or 3 harm. At level 2 harm, that means it would cost you 1 stress to take any action. At level 3 harm, it would mean that taking any action will cost you 2 stress. But you won't lose anything on your dice. You just have to pay the stress to make it happen.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, Hrolf, if you don't have anything, near and dear to the front of your brain about how to make a strange change of this, I think maybe that this conversation might have included Ananke as well. Ananke is also a powerful practitioner.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Of the power. Maybe she's got something.
So warp fate is it allows you to make narrative changes to what's going on around you. So you can make small changes to look reality. You can spend extra stress to make much bigger changes. I think that it could be kind of potentially cool if you were to warp fate around her shield. I'm sure that'd be pretty high stress cost, but instead of the shield acting to keep things out, if you can basically reverse that effect so that when it still appears to be there, but the problem is that when things hit it, they're amplified rather than rejected.
Or at least, because that does feel like a lot of stress. Maybe a slightly less stress version could be she's kind of, it also keeps her out from it, so she can't get to you while she has it up, or something like that.
It acts as a barrier to her as well.
Right.
I do like the
That
idea
could
of
make
it being
sense.
an amplifier.
Yeah, right.
The idea of it being an amplifier, because then I could throw a bandit through there and it'd be really cool.
Burn that.
So we could use that flashback as a rationale for how one of these two characters could assist you on a roll.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I'd love an assist. That's great.
Yep. And remember, if you have a bond with somebody, you get 1 free assist at no stress cost.
That's a sweet
So
one.
I was going to ask, is that so? I do not actually have a bond with Valriaut, but Valriaut has one with me.
Mhm.
So I would have to pay
So
stress,
he
right?
could, yeah, you would pay stress, but you have stress to spend, so
I
it's
do.
not
Yeah.
not the end of
I
the
was
world.
making sure I got the roll right.
Yeah, so it works in one direction. In the direction of if you have a bond with somebody, you can provide them with an assist one time for no stress.
Okay. So
All right.
what do I do here to warp fate? Is that another warp roll?
Yeah, I mean, it could be another action rating, but you can say that you are trying to basically change the rules. That's what warp fate does, is it makes small changes to the nature of local reality. So if you were in a place where somebody was pointing a gun at your head, you could potentially change the rules so that physics don't allow gunpowder to work, right? And they pull the trigger and nothing happens, right? So those kinds of things. In this case, you could work on changing the rules that allow her storm shield to work. That's a difficult thing to achieve, and you might, achieve a partial result that begins to affect it. And I have put up a storm shield clock here on Discord, so you could work your way through it if you wanted to try to have effects on what it does and how it helps her.
I think that's what I'm doing. I think I'm tinkering with this thing from the other side, and I'm trying to do it subtly. I'm still trying to maneuver with her, keep my guard up, so to speak, while I'm trying to work through this Gordian knot of power that she's set around herself. I think that right now I'm just I think Hrolf and Ananke kind of walked me through how it works. I'm trying to figure it out for myself. Is this a thing that maybe I could study and get a feel for how I'm going to alter it in such a way that it allows me to make a knockout punch?
Yeah, you could study it as a setup action for another role that would affect the shield.
Okay. Do you like study or contrive here better? Because I think I'm trying to implement a clever strategy, but I'm also trying to figure out how this thing works.
Right. Good question. If you are, I could make an argument for either.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking here is, if I'm contriving, does that make it something that is going to have effect, whereas studying is only a setup action, or is it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you're trying to have an effect on the shield, then contrive makes more sense. If you're trying to do a setup action, probably study would have the best effect.
Okay. I really want to use this. This assist that Hrolf has given me in the fiction here. I want to make sure that it's not just giving me better position or effect to give me better position or effect. I want to do some stuff with it. So as I'm contriving here, as I'm analyzing the shield and trying to twist it to my own ends, I'm going to push myself No, wait. I can't push myself and take an assist, can I?
Yeah, you can. It's just it's either push or devil's bargain.
Right. So I'm going to push myself and take the assist.
Okay.
And I'm going to roll 3 dice. What is my position here?
You are in. Since you've recovered, I'm going to say that you are in risky position, and you're working. So this would be limited effect unless you are trading position for effect. Or using that. You could use that die for effect instead of.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my push for effect. I'm gonna take Hrolf's assist for an extra die.
Quick
Okay,
question.
that makes sense.
Am I assisting?
So it's risky standard.
Is it Hrolf assisting?
Yeah, that's what my question is. Am I assisting or is Ananke assisting because it was her idea?
I guess this is.
Okay, because
Right.
you have a bond, right? So you can assist for free. No, do you?
No.
No one has bonds.
The 2 characters who don't have a bond. Okay.
Okay, never mind.
So you can
Well,
just
either
spend
way.
one stress for that assist. That's fine.
Okay, here goes nothing.
And you get a 5. All right, so I'm going to say that is that you're affecting the shield. You have not fully corrupted it or messed with it, but you are starting to do that. So let me. And because you push for effect, that's 2 instead of 1. Okay, so that's 2 of the 4. Just so that for people watching, that's 2 of the 4 faces of that clock are filled for the Storm Shield clock. However, you are also taking a consequence because what's happening is that lightning, a bolt from a series of lightning bolts coruscate around the room and wrap in towards you and strike you. That's going to be level 2 harm unless you wish to resist.
Yeah, I'm going to resist that for sure.
I figured you might, since that would significantly affect you. So go ahead and make a resist roll.
I'm rolling 1 die for that.
Okay. All right, you rolled a 1. Ouch. So you pay 5 stress for that resist.
Batting 1,000 tonight, guys.
Yeah. That's a rough one. So that, but that resist that roll. You managed to duck to the side, and correct me if I'm wrong in terms of how you visualize how this is happening. But let's say you step to the side and you suddenly adjust the rules of the world around you so that strikes where you were and not where you are.
Yeah, very much lightning bending. It's just almost the matador turn with that half cape, and I think I can't resist it. Ole! So that being the case, with that sonic boom that just broke the silence here, I think that I'm still trying my best to do the metaphysical version of lockpicking, trying to get into this shield, trying to bend it to my will.
Okay.
Not a lot of stress left to work with, but I think I'm one more here.
Yeah, and just so for people watching this, you have 2 stress left. To be clear about how the rules work in this game, if you spend all of your stress, you stress out, you are exhausted. That means you can continue acting. You just have no ability to resist anything. You cannot spend stress on anything, but you can continue trying to do stuff. If you're also injured in such a way that you would be spending stress, then you'd be working at minuses to your rolls.
Right, sure. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm trying to stay ahead of where she's throwing bolts, while I'm trying to put the last finishing touches on how I've warped this shield to be an amplifier rather than a dead stop here.
And you can see that she looks like she's basically, she's pissed off. She wants to finish this. She feels like she's hitting you. She's, you ducked out of the way. She's not sure how you manage that. That's annoying. She wants to just hit you.
Right. Yeah. I think.
So you can see another strike that she's pulling together.
Oh, really? Tell me, what would, because I have this warp fate thing and I think it's really, really cool. I really want to see what it would take for me to warp fate in such a way that we are actually turned in the direction of the viewing chamber, and that bolt coming at me is actually coming at the viewing chamber.
Oh, interesting. That would be, in this Vergence, that's a significant effect. I'm going to say that would probably cost your 2 remaining stress.
Ooh, is it worth maybe?
So that would be a significant, you would have to really channel reality and just pull together everything you got to make that happen. That's not a minor little effect.
Yeah, I think this is my Hail Mary ace in the hole. So I'm going to hold on to it for a second. I really want to get through that shield. What do you guys think?
Uh-huh.
I think that's good. I definitely don't think you should do the lightning bolt into the glass, because this protective barrier, I mean, it's made to withstand things. Unless she's like overwhelmingly try to just like get rid of you, I feel like you're not going to have a chance that way.
Yeah, she's pulling everything she has to swat this annoying fly. So,
But I think Agorus could offer you a flashback assist. I think this entire scene, maybe not in an action show. This would be like 50% flashbacks, like people remembering.
Right.
But like, I think Agorus would have probably taken Valriaut, or like before the fight started or something, like kind of clasped him over the shoulder and kind of like looked at him with my steely eyes and just been like, I know that this is important to you, but remember that you would join this alliance and you are not useful to any of us if you get yourself knocked out by Morgaine. So at the very least, be mindful of that.
Brother, we have 3 more nights. I've promised you at least 3 more nights. I do not intend to die here.
I'm not suggesting that you will die. I think she has more grace than that. But if you are recovering for those 3 nights.
Yes, I understand, brother. And if you have any pointers or anything that is better than "don't let her hit you," like I welcoming of any advice that you could give one such as I. You dance the battle dance much better than I do. I understand.
I just kind of nod to you, and I'm like, you are far better at it than I when swords are not involved.
That is as may be, but footwork is footwork, is it not?
You could pass on potentially some advice about how to fake an enemy out in a duel. You have fought duels like this before. We could even say that you fought duels in this chamber before, potentially.
Actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, I know, did we determine that there were moving platforms previously? Is that part of the dueling chamber as well?
We had determined that there were moving platforms in the main dance hall as part of...
okay, I wasn't sure if it was like the whole palace.
Right. That wasn't my understanding of how it was talked about.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just... If it like was something that would take her by surprise, I could have like prepared him for that. Like know that it starts, 40 seconds into the duel.
39. 40!
Yeah.
That wasn't how I was envisioning this space, but we could certainly, talk about that. I could see that being a component of things. Is that how you think it would be cool for this to play out?
Yeah, I think that would be.
All
I
right,
think it's
all right.
definitely interesting.
All right.
I think duels are kind of flashy too, right? They're not just
yeah.
like to the blood. So I think flashy on the dance floor, fancy
Okay.
duels.
Yeah, when these characters are doing stuff, they wanna be over the top. So yeah, let's say that there is a clock, a sort of a random clock that occurs that whereby different parts of the floor will adjust in height by 20 or 30 feet at a time, powered by steam catapults. So it happens very quickly, boom, and might kind of launch somebody into the air or trip somebody over or something like that. And that's kind of built into the mosaic tiles of the floor. And you were able to give him some guidance as to how those clocks work, so that couldn't give him an exact moment, but you could talk about the probability, so that probably about this time you need to be ready for this shift. Does that sound
or
right?
just the feel of
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean? Like when
that
you
rumbling.
Yeah, exactly. If you
Okay.
feel a shake in your boot.
Okay.
Assist,
think that's-
give me another problem.
Yeah. I think
You'll be
that is
fine.
totally worth an assist.
Okay, fair enough. All right. I have to find a way to use that to my advantage now. So
Right.
I think that if I can get her off her balance enough to get my hooks into this shield and turn it to my advantage here, I think I might be able to maybe traverse in such a way that I have the advantage to get that last hook into her storm shield and tear it in such a way that it'll magnify my banish attempt here in a second.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right.
For-
So
For a
what
traverse,
exactly are you trying to do now?
maybe she has to focus the direction of the shield to some extent, and you're trying to get behind her.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Basically,
do we get there?
so what I'm doing, I think, is I am because obviously I'm already through my sick matador turn. I'm going to use the momentum of that turn and come in sprinting, look like I'm coming this way, and then sharply juke off to the right. And then as she's turning to track me to my left, I'm going to come around her and focus my assault there.
We could say that happens as the floor shifts, and you use the momentum of that shift to get her off balance and to propel you faster to jump around and to the side where she's not expecting you to be.
Yeah, that's super cool. And thank you, Agorus, for adding $10 million to our production budget.
Yeah. That's what I do, you know?
Fortunately, we have a very high special effects budget for this game. All right, so you want to make a roll with traverse. You have 1 dot in traverse at this point. You could push that, but that would use up all of your remaining stress. You're taking an assist, right? Do you want to talk about a devil's bargain, since you're kind of not at the point where you want to spend stress, I'm imagining?
I want to hear it, certainly. I completely reserve the right to say, "Oh, you evil genius."
So let's say this, that however this roll turns out, whether you take harm or anything else on your sheet, well, you're going to take level 1 harm that is a significant scar to some noticeable part of your body you can pick. So it could be an interesting scar on your face or your hand or your neck, your scalp.
I'm just so pretty, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we'll interfere with your prettiness.
I think after 100 years, I've put enough into this that I'm more than willing to take home a souvenir from it. Right?
Okay. So that will be a notable scar, and it will fill your other level 1 harm box. However the roll turns out.
However the roll turns out. Okay, I'll take 3 dice for that.
Okay. And a 6. So you do get that devil's bargain consequence, but no other consequence applies. You were trying to maneuver around behind to where her shield was open, and I'm going to tick the other two boxes on that storm shield. And that fills up that clock. If she gets the chance to regain her composure and get herself back together, then she'll be able to unfill that shield clock. But for now, you've maneuvered yourself into a place where that shield is not not a barrier to you doing anything.
All right. I think this is the moment where I'm going to attempt to. So this shield right now is not in any way, shape, or form hindering me, but it's also not helping me. Is there a way that I could turn this thing into a focusing lens to maybe get some better effect on her? Use a setup action or something. I'm still looking at my warp fate real hard.
Right. Yeah. So you could make that attempt. Before you do that, tell me what. So you got hit by lightning, causing you some kind of injury. What does that look like?
I think that what it is that I've got one of these. It's almost like a graze, right? Where the crackling bolt, as I'm going off the steam catapult, it catches me right across the neck, and I've got this spider web of electrical scarring that immediately stands out on my neck.
All right, neat. All right, and it is now 7:30, so this makes a pretty good
dramatic point
cliffhanger point. So why don't we take our 5-minute break, and then we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
You jerk, absolutely.
All right, see everyone in 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.